The charcoal puppy.
I'm done. I'm done with Phish.
I feel all of you so much.
In your 30s, it's so hard to have new, fun experiences with friends.
And this is a high stakes moment for you. I get it. And if you're being vulnerable and you're having trouble, we can talk about that.
Was it wrong?
Welcome back to...
Buckle up, baby.
All right, making it work in the trenches here, Michael. I am traveling on the road. It's going to be a busy couple of weeks coming up, and it has been leading up to this for this episode, but we are keeping it going via Riverside. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, me too. We got to see each other at Phish. Was that last night?
It feels like a month ago, but it was last night.
Feels like a long time ago. I had a dire restroom situation.
I went and I avoided like 5 dumps because I'm like, I cannot do this here. I kept trying to, and I'm like,
that's how badly I had to go. That's my nightmare. If I had known before the show that I would have to do that, I probably wouldn't have gone.
It was that bad. I'm sorry.
It's just the thought of having to poopy in a public restroom is it's a nightmare for me.
Mm-hmm. Well,
yeah.
I think that at a Phish show you could have just gone in your seat. It's Phish.
They're a very understanding community.
That's like, people would have been like, "It's good, bro. You're good. You're good. Get it out."
I spoke to someone last night who said he hasn't seen Phish in 10 years. So I said, "What happened?" So he said he was traveling to Red Rocks to see them. He was in the bathroom, and this hippie with dreadlocks down to his ass was talking to him in the bathroom. And he turned around and asked him a question and just started pissing on him at the urinal. And he said at this moment, I just knew I'm done. I'm done with Phish.
That is a fair moment. It's a fair moment to turn your back on Phish for a while.
I think so too. The
There's
last night's
something
show, what did you think about last night's show? Because the reviews were very good.
Yeah, I wonder if you couldn't properly assess it given your situation of your stomago being on fire.
I think despite it, I enjoyed it.
Oh, okay, good. No, for me, of the Phish shows and the categories, the way I categorize them, the ones where they sort of just dial it in and rest on their laurels, and the ones where they really bring the heat, this was the latter. They really were hitting very hard. Tight, grooving, like really good, really like I think the drums were like louder than ever, which is interesting. I was just being
geeky. It was a loud
about it.
show too.
He was playing it like a rock drummer last night. I'm not sure what it was, if it was playing or if it was the mix, but they were like, ugh, you know.
So this was 8-1. This was August 1st, the Tuesday night show at MSG that we're talking about in case you hear this later.
And it was awesome. There was a moment for me where I'm like, you know, Phish is a huge influence on my life and musical education over the years. It's a big influence for me. I don't only need to see Phish, and I basically end up at this age, like over the years, you end up going to things. It's like an event when Phish comes in, so we go to Phish or Dave Matthews. There are other bands that live would hit a deeper spot for me, or that would like satisfy something for me. That Phish, even at their best, and not because I don't get it, and I'm not hating on it, it's not peak for me of what a musical performance does to me. Even though there are times when I can tap in and just be like, I can acknowledge when it's just amazing, and it is. And last night had a lot of those where I was just like, man, they just crushed that. That was amazing. That was awesome. But it's also maybe I'm just like not balanced, because there's other bands that maybe are a little like, you know, I was talking to a friend there and we were talking about like Cory Wong and Wolfpack and these other bands that for me are just like next level, not better or worse, but they just have a different thing that they do that I groove with a little more.
The centers in your brain that Phish hits, I think, has to do with a lot more than music than just the performance. Like, you're going to see friends, to connect with people, like to feel something. Like, you know, it's, you know, I go at this point, like a big reason I go is just to see my friends. You know, like what else? What other new experiences?
You're like friends with Trey and like Mike and stuff. Is that why?
Yeah, Trey and John I'm closer with than Mike and no, but like, I mean, in your 30s, it's so hard to have new fun experiences with friends.
Yeah, it's a community.
So Phish is just this built-in thing, that you can go to every year and build your social life around for like a few days out of the summer.
Not every band has a community, and Phish 100% does.
There are people I know just from Phish that I only see at Phish.
So that you have to credit them with. I don't come at it as I come at Phish as not like a I don't get it guy. I'm a fan and I know their stuff, So
Yeah. You also have never done.
hard
You haven't
drugs
even
or
smoked
drugs.
pot at a show.
Yeah.
Like you don't. You like that's all. That's another thing you haven't experienced, which does make a difference.
It doesn't make the music any different, but it makes the experience
It makes
different.
the experience different. Yeah, yeah. Well, so I'm talking about like the pleasure centers in your brain. Like when I'm going to a Phish show, even if the music is like at a 5, the
Yeah.
experience can still be at a 10 because like it's hitting all
When
these
I
different
go to
spots.
concerts, it's like I'm a musician, so when I go to concerts, it's like if a chef goes to a restaurant, oftentimes they're not just going to like eat good food. They're like, okay, what sauce did you use here? That was an interesting technique. Oh, the gastrique, I would have done it differently, but that's cool. Like they have a
Right.
kind of different experience when they're eating gourmet
Right.
food,
So
and I have a different experience when I go to concerts. Like it's not that I don't enjoy it; I just enjoy it differently. And someone taking drugs and going enjoys it differently than I do because I'm not accessing that, but I'm accessing other things that I think
I had a
regular
question
people
for
who
you.
who aren't versed in that stuff.
So as a musician,
Yeah.
Trey, they played "You Enjoy Myself" last night. It's
Yeah.
this very composition song, this like very
Yeah.
technical. And
Yeah.
I was wondering, let's say they played it, I don't know, 700 times or something, or maybe 500 times. On the 500th time at MSG, Trey's like looking down at his guitar, playing this composition that he wrote when he was like 20. What do you
Yeah.
think he's thinking?
What
What
do
do
I
you think
think
he's
Trey is
thinking as he's
thinking?
playing? Do you think he's thinking about every note? How do I like making sure he hits every note? What do you think? Well,
Um, hmm. What is he thinking?
yeah, what's going through his mind as he's playing the like technical parts of this composition that he knows probably flawlessly? He could play it in his sleep.
Yeah, I
You
think
think
he's just
he's
trying to be in the moment.
yeah,
You're just
like
trying to be
just
in the moment
but what's in the moment
of the
of
presence of the
playing it
moment.
or of just being like how it feels to play it on stage, like trying to feel
You're
present
trying
with
to,
the
you're,
crowd?
yeah, like the non-technical parts of it, because he
The
already knows
non-technical parts. Okay.
the non-technical parts of the experience when you're making music is when you're if you're thinking about everything, it's not the most enjoyable thing. That's not really stage ready when you're
Hmm.
doing that. It comes with hours and hours. Sometimes you have to do that. Some songs less. Like if there's a song he's like, that's brand new or they're less familiar with, you have to think a little more. And the second you have to think, okay, what's next again? You're not in the moment. You're like in the song and you're trying to get your way through it. Like being on a highway with directions, you're like, okay, I have it in front of me, but you're not just like coasting and enjoying the scenery and
Hmm.
enjoying where you are. You're kind of navigating. So
Do you,
when you know the way in muscle memory, you can actually like drive and be there and admire everything else that's happening around you. You're sort of sitting you're sitting outside the music or like within or amongst it, even though you're making it. So you become an audience and a performer at the same time,
Beautiful.
like an audience to your own music, and that's always real nice. So you can just be like things are just happening automatically, and that's
do you
a
ever
great place to
wonder
be.
what it feels like? So you've performed in front of crowds of like, what's the biggest crowd? Thousands, tens of thousands? That
What's
Distant Cousins is?
VCon? Are we thinking VCon? I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, as a
big crowd.
musician,
Big enough.
more of a musician because
I guess
that's
big enough.
big enough. Well, I'm just wondering, what have you ever wondered what it feels like? I was thinking, there's only 4 guys in the world who know what it's like to be on stage at a Phish show.
Hmm.
Like how it feels to have 30,000 people in your crowd
Right.
playing your music, playing that music. You ever
Yeah,
imagine
yeah.
what that's like?
Yeah.
Do
I
you
can
let yourself go
imagine
there?
it. I
Yeah.
can imagine it because not that I'm nowhere close to that level, but I understand the ratio of like the bigger the audience gets, a certain feeling, like there's a certain experiential change that happens. Like in the scariest shows are actually the more intimate ones. Like like that's more intimidating, and I think a lot of people, artists, attest to this. Like intimate shows with very small crowds are scarier than 1,000 people because the nerves kind of just disperse. You're not like you're not feeling a sense of like of like a direct judgment. It sort of keeps getting dispersed with more and more and more and more people. You
Hmm.
know, So as the audience grows, I think in my case, if there's a bigger audience, first of all, that's usually accompanied with a better sound setup. And when there's better sound and everything and there's more staff involved working things, then like there's less obstacles and there's less that you have to worry about. You can kind of not have to worry about like the hiccups that could go wrong, even though it happens at every level. But usually if it's a big production, there's more assistance and more things happening that make it smoother. And like sound is a huge part of that. Like if you're a musician playing on stage, you want to be able to hear everything properly and not have to worry about that stuff. A good musician can get through those obstacles, but you ideally want to minimize them. But like it's like if I played a song for a friend and I never played it for anyone before, you'd be like, whew. Then 2 people and 10 people in a room, let's hear it. You'd be like, oh God, this is really I feel all of you so much. And then if you keep expanding that, it sort of has a way of easing all of everybody's sort of direct judgment, and it's creating this sort of thing. And then if you're feeling good with your band, like in almost any scenario, if you're tight, like you can make any scenario hopefully comfortable. But there are always some gigs that are more work than other work. But you're talking about the scale of the crowd. Like, does it feel is there a particular unique thing as the crowd is so huge? I mean,
just imagine.
I dream about that. Like, that's an amazing feeling to just step out into a room and like be surrounded by this energy. And the bigger that gets, that's very cool. That is a very cool thing when there's mass energy.
Yeah. I imagine it almost like even goes into like your genes. Like it like changes you to have that experience 70 times, like those 4 guys. You know, like they say, like Kathy was telling us, like these scientists went into a hospital and like prayed at the foot of a bed of like a cancer patient, and like those vibrations like did something to them. Like just imagine all of the vibrations you're getting on stage at Madison Square Garden over 70 times.
Sure.
Like,
I mean,
what that does to someone, you know?
The experience of the performer to the audience at that level in like a bask of hours of positive goodness, that's just this dance between you and the vibrations of the universe, is a very nice, great part of life to bask yourself in.
Yeah.
You know? That's what drives people to perform. I don't think it's like, we talk a lot about like the grind, the pleasure, the pain, the fame. But like, no, like that's what you want as much as possible. That dance of the vibrations of the universe. Sorry, that dance is what you're going for, and however you can get there as many times as possible with as many people as possible, the better.
Have you taken your meds today?
Yes.
So I wanted to this is going to be a shorter episode. We have a lot to talk about. You did the Chosen Comedy Festival. You're in Houston now. You got a bunch of gigs coming up. I want to hear about all that. But I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk about Andrew Schulz and the Nelk Boys drama.
Okay.
So in case someone doesn't know, Andrew Schulz is one of the biggest. He was one of the first guys to put stand-up clips on YouTube. It just kind of wasn't done. He did it. His career got huge. He had he's got like specials. He had like, I think his last one got 10 million views on YouTube.
And
he's
his
like
success was driven by
arenas.
new media and content, right? Like,
Right. So he's a brilliant marketer. He really knows how to put a story around something he's doing, how to make something matter and relevant. He's pretty brilliant. He's a really good stand-up. He's in the Joe Rogan universe, like for sure. A couple of weeks ago, there was like this like funny drama around this podcast episode with the Nelk Boys that was never released. The Nelk Boys are like kind of like Jackass for Gen Z or whatever, like super online. They have like a hard seltzer brand. They're super successful on YouTube, and they went into
Happy Dads, great shit.
They went into involved in like they're kind of these cultural people. They have a huge podcast now. They apparently have an episode with Andrew Schulz that they never released, and Schulz was like, release it again, like knowing how to put himself make it into a story instead of just a podcast episode, right? And
He's
so
like, calling on Nelk, release the pod.
Yeah, and so he got to tell his side of the story first, which is basically like he went to record the episode. And they seemed to not know who he was. It was the worst podcast episode he's ever recorded. So he said to them, like, let's just not put it out. Let's just do another one. And then they ended up putting it out last week so everyone could watch it and judge for themselves. What did you think of the episode?
So, First and foremost, did you watch the entire thing? Or the segments that got awkward?
I watched the entire thing. Did you not watch the entire thing?
I did not watch the entire thing. I watched the segments that got awkward and said you should check it out.
No, you got to watch the entire thing, man.
Start to finish? Yeah,
because that's the thing.
I didn't even get to. I was just in it, and then I was like, "You got to check this out." It was like goings on. I saw the clips. I didn't even know that they released a full episode. I thought they were just
the hour-long episode.
So you can fill me in. I want to talk about it.
So he kind of came at it like he sat down with them in a restaurant they had rented out. Mm-hmm. It was him. And I don't know the Nelk boys very well, but it was him, this guy Steiny, who's kind of like this young, punky, jackass kind of kid who isn't funny, but like is popular, one of those kids. Mm-hmm. Then kind of like the brains behind the whole operation guy, who's like Kyle with Dana White. And then the third guy, Steve will do it.
Yeah.
Who's like this savant who got himself canceled and kicked off YouTube, but is like he's just a savant.
He accidentally know these guys. The story is Steve had this. He built himself a huge online presence, and he accidentally got his whole YouTube channel removed because he showed some gambling. It was like some accidental gambling website in a video, and they just canceled his millions of subscriber thing. And then but he has this like sweet. He's just like, yeah, I'll do it. I don't know. Like I just love President Trump. I just love Trump. This is what he sounds like. They can't let him speak because they'll cancel the episode.
No, that's not why. I don't. Oh, is that why? I don't think that's why he didn't speak on the episode. They cannot show
Steve will do it on episodes. They've talked about it.
Oh, interesting.
They want to.
Well, he was on it though. They didn't blur his face or anything.
Right, but there's something to do with that. And the episode where they had Trump on, he didn't say anything the whole time. He was just like, "I love Trump." President Trump. Yeah. He's just sweet, and Schulz liked him. Maybe you could tell me how it built up to that moment because I saw the moment. And at first I was like, ooh,
"Wait, what was the moment? What was the moment?"
The moment that I think is when he really digs into Steiny, and he's just like, he's not. He wasn't, and maybe it built up to this point, but at a certain point he's like, I'm not playing and I'm not going to be forgiving. I'm just going to call out everything I see and not smooth things over here.
Right. So what happened is they're talking, and I think Nelk edited out a lot of the build up to getting Schulz pissed off because Schulz said there were a lot of long moments and long awkward pauses, and there weren't in the actual episode they released. Cut it. So basically what happened is like they show up and Andrew Schulz starts driving the conversation. He starts asking them questions. Right. Which isn't like how it's supposed to be.
Are you guys when, you're the guest. Each other?
yeah. And then the questions just start getting more like what's your deal? Like are you guys like he starts like digging in more and more because he's kind of getting bored. He's like and
annoyed.
I took my time.
The chemistry is off. The chemistry is weird. It's weird.
and then finally he just goes at that kind of like jackassy kid because
the kid was nervous and was like, "Yo, bro," and he checked his phone in the middle.
Right, yeah. So he checked his phone and that set him off. And so the kid was going the kid, which I kind of believe was kind of just like, I'm just trying my best. This is my best. And I think Schulz was like, well, if this is your best, like I don't like you and you're not a professional and it's not good enough and I don't like your shtick. And he just kind of went into him on his own show. And I felt bad for the kid because the kid, he was basically like, you don't know how to be yourself, which is just like this devastating thing to do.
That's what was hard to.
Yeah, and I felt bad for him because I didn't think, maybe they edited it out. I thought Schulz was a little unfair to them. I thought they were trying hard and they just weren't good at it.
Yeah. It demonstrates how important like podcasts seem to just happen and it's fluid, but like being prepared and professional is the undercurrent of it all. Yeah. And I do think that it was like Harsh Musser, like he was doing him a favor, kind of like when Joe Rogan told
Candace Owens.
No, not Candace Owens. What's his name? Who's an MMA fighter? The Charcoal Puppy. I'm blanking right now.
I don't know.
Who's Fighter and the Kid? Looks like
Brandon Schaub.
Brandon Schaub, thank you. God. There's an episode
How do I know that?
What?
Yeah, how do I know that?
Yeah, Brandon Schaub, he says, I don't think you're meant to be a fighter. He's like, you don't think, what are you talking about, Joe? I am a fighter. He's like, you're not a fighter. Your head's not in it. Your head is not in it. And that's why I think you have to stop. I don't think you're meant to do this. Like he gave him this really harsh dose. It was coming from a place of love because they're good friends. So in this case with Schulz and this kid, it wasn't really from a place of love, but maybe he was maybe it was painful, but the kid will definitely never let that happen again and become more aware of his like facades. But again, he's younger, he doesn't know, and he's like, can't you just like if you're having, and he gave him an option. He's like, if you're having a vulnerable moment right now, if you want to be vulnerable and talk about it, that's fine. But I don't think you really know how to be yourself. You see, you're doing it again. And like, that's the kind of stuff that was like unforgiving. What else is the kid's got to try to be like, yo, man, I thought we were like mishpacha, bro. He thinks I'm Jewish. I mean, that just kept getting worse. But again, there's two ways to play that. And I feel like Andrew talked about the fact that he's like, I could have played. I didn't want to at that point because I felt like they were wasting my time.
What I really liked is you got to really see how smart Andrew Schulz is. Like you get to see how smart someone is when they're being mean, I think. Like
you like
how
mean.
Well, it's you
that's
get
why I
to
said,
see
Michael,
like
you gotta watch this. This guy, because mean is real.
Yeah,
Nice
you
is
get
fake.
a real sense of how sharp he can be and like what he's like when he's not performing.
Right.
Like
He didn't do the shtick.
There was no shtick, and you're like, oh wow, like you could see how this guy is so successful because you could see how he deals with people and like how much respect he demands.
I guess the question is, mean? Was it mean? Yes, but was it wrong?
Was it wrong?
Was it wrong to do what he did and play it that way, even though it was mean? Because sometimes you gotta be, you know. And again, it could have been very aggravating. They were like doing product placement. No one was driving the conversation, and he's like, "What's going on here,
so
guys?"
in the way they edited it, I actually think they edited it to make him look meaner than he probably was.
Okay.
Because it looks like it comes a little bit out of nowhere.
And he's like, "Do you ever like make fun of the crowd?" Yeah.
Yeah.
How does it go? Good.
Yeah, that's sort of a Seinfeld, right?
The human part of the podcast, I like just seeing like this is human beings frustrated.
This is what
and like it's really
it's what I love.
There's a refreshing quality to this.
Yeah.
And of course, people bounce back from this kind of stuff. I just, the human side of me feels for Andrew, and I feel for the kid who's like getting, Andrew is his superior in every way because he's older, more experienced, a more experienced entertainer, a little more intelligent, a lot more. But like, and it's not like they're riffing on a fair, I wouldn't say it's bullying because they run a huge successful podcast. So be prepared and like, he's like, and this is a high stakes moment for you. I get it. And if you're being vulnerable and you're having trouble, we could talk about that. No, bro. Like, this is me, bro. I'm 100% me, bro.
There was something a little like vicious about it.
Vicious.
Which helps me understand like his success a little bit. Like, no, he was just like it was like a fight almost. Like we're both here to perform, and like and if you're not like showing up, I'll just like beat you.
No, and if you're not showing up, I'm not going to show up either.
Right.
In other words, I could play nice and riff and giggle with you, but like, you're not valuing my time, and you're not valuing like what we're doing here and taking it seriously, seemingly. So like, if you're not going to do that, and you're gonna like take shots at me or something, I think like Steiny was a little provocative or something that ticked him off. He's like, "What triggered you, bro? What triggered you? If you're gonna be a little dicky like that, then I'm not." That's what he said. Did something trigger you? Like he was trying to do that, and he's like, "I'm not gonna play because we can't. We're not there."
So the next question.
He goes, I think you're annoying. I think you're annoying. Yeah. You're annoying. You're annoying. You're definitely annoying.
At the end of it, he invited Steiny and Kyle out, and didn't invite. No, he invited. Steve will do it and Kyle out, and didn't invite the annoying guy.
Really?
He was like, yo guys, message me. We'll hook up. And he was basically like to the third guy, like we're not friends. I find you annoying. Like you and I are not. We're not boys. That's what it is. It's okay.
Oh, and remember when he's like usually,
for him.
and then he goes, usually like, how does this work? He's like, well, we have another guy usually he's here. Oh, Brad. He's like, yeah, Brad's great. I love Brad.
Yeah. I think on his own podcast, he said, has anyone gotten further in entertainment with less talent than Steiny?
Yeah. I felt bad. I kind of felt bad all around. I don't feel as bad for Schulz because like, whatever. I don't know. It just
I don't feel bad for him. No. He's older also. He's he's 40 and his guys are 20s.
It was mean, but was it wrong? That's the question,
I think...
But maybe he'll grow from it. Steiny will be like, wow, that like... I could totally see an episode like in a year from now, man. I'm great. I mean, that was the harshest episode ever, but like it totally changed how I approach like what I do.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
I
I
don't know
think
either. I feel
uh,
bad.
the next question was, what do we ever, obviously we've never gotten there with a guest, but do we show up as unprepared as they did that day? Like, is there a guest who could have gone? Something he said in the
No.
main episode, which I think could apply to both of us,
Yeah.
is they kept saying like, "What, you're not enjoying the episode?" He said, "Well, we're talking about me." No, no, he said we're talking about you, which is not what you want on a podcast to Steiny. And then he said, "Hey, we're still talking about you. We're not talking about me." Schulz said, "We're
Mm,
talking about you.
I
Well,
didn't
why'd you
see
invite
that.
me on to talk about yourself?" And he's like, "You're fucking up. We're talking about you. We're talking about you. We're talking about you. You're fucking up."
Ay.
And
Look,
I was like, we do that. We do
no,
that.
but
We don't let the
we
guests
are
talk all
not
the time.
we are fortunately like have I think fully have formed enough of a sense of self between the both of us and an honest rapport that I don't think I hopefully it doesn't come off that way to people, like even if we're just getting to know someone and we don't know them, we're honest about that. We'd say, so I'm not as familiar, to be fully honest. I'd love to hear more about your story, and if you could tell me more about where it started for you. And if it was Andrew Schultz and I wasn't aware, like I know you're all over the place, but you have to forgive me. I tried to dig through what I could and watch a bunch of your stuff. It seems amazing. Could you tell me a little bit more about how it started for
Yeah.
you? And I would be naturally honest about like,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, and he'd be like, oh yeah, that's cool, that's cool. Like not everyone has to know me,
What I
like
was
we would be
worried
honest
about
about it, I would think, and we would be honest with each other, like in our
what I was
rapport.
worried about with I was worried what happened to them was going to happen to us with Brian Koppelman, which we avoided, I think.
We prepared.
We could by preparing, but I
Yeah.
I was worried we'd get there and he was going to be like, "Do you guys not know who I am?" Like,
Hmm. But you,
um
first of all, you do, so that was fine.
I did,
And
but you
secondly,
didn't. You didn't.
yeah, but I did. I
Yeah.
did my research.
Yeah, we did the
And we had a
research.
good chat. And I mean,
Yeah.
look, it's important to be professional and do research. I don't think it risks for us because, like, fortunately, I don't want to toot our own horns. I think we're okay. I think we're okay with like being able to have substantial, substantive conversations, even with people we're just getting to know, and being upfront about that we're just getting to know. Like
Right.
that's the whole idea. Like I think he was trying to get Steiny to an honest place, maybe not in a genuine way, but like maybe there's hope. Like if you're having a vulnerable moment right now, he gave him this like, what if Steiny's like, yeah, man, I'm sorry, dude. I'm just so nervous, like whatever. But I don't
Yeah.
know. But there were other things that cut out, I'm sure.
They definitely did. I would love to see the unedited
Unedited, the
version
lulls.
of it.
And
That's
there's
the
a moment
next
where
one.
Kyle's just like,
Yeah. Yeah, oh, he was loved. Yeah, I also loved how little they had each other's backs. They're both
yeah.
like Steve will do it was like, yeah, man, he's so insecure he doesn't even know he's playing a character. And Kyle like did nothing to defend his friend. He was like, yeah,
It
yeah,
had
you
very
guys spread
Frisch
it out.
vibes. It had very Frisch vibes for sure. Um,
I don't know. I'm not even sure what that means.
it means like not like friends who like disrespect each other, not playfully. Um,
Interesting.
anyway, I'm joking.
Interesting.
Speaking of the
What's
stand-up world,
next?
yes, we didn't cover it.
Yeah.
We mentioned that I've been doing some stand-up stuff
Yeah,
and
we'll
shows in
cover it.
Catskills.
We'll cover it next week, I
Oh, you
think.
don't want to
But
dig in now because it's too long?
yeah, I think yeah, we got to wrap up.
Um,
But go ahead quickly, the 1 minute recap. How was Chosen Comedy Festival in the Catskills?
all I can tell you is all the stuff I sort of fetch and bitch about sometimes when it comes to the stand-up grind. Like there
Mm-hmm.
comes a point where like the work pays off.
Mm-hmm.
Having like the unpleasantries of the grind of getting decent or
Mm-hmm.
learning how to do it can like has these moments where they do pay off, where like I can kind of decipher when there's ways to do stand-up that I really don't know how to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing a little bit more how to do it,
Mm-hmm.
not being fully in the place that I want to be fully comfortable, but
Specifically, what do you know how to do now that you didn't know before?
I just have done it enough. There's nothing specific other than the
Just being
hours
comfortable on stage.
stage time and figuring out how to get back to yourself where you're like in a zone where it's comfortable and loose but not rushed and like sloppy,
Got
like
it.
loose
Okay.
and in control as opposed
Got
to
it.
loose and a mess.
Right.
Like I think if you break it down, it's like pacing, tempo, technique, delivery, punch. I've written enough too that I kind of like know how to trim the fat on a joke and do it. I'm not saying like until my next bomb, and then I'm gonna be like I'm terrible. But
Right.
like at least in these cases, I was nervous. I was just like going on with everybody, 450 people,
Yeah.
in a room full of Jews in the Catskills. I was the last comic of the night after like
Yeah.
8 people. So you're just
And how
waiting, and everybody's doing well. Everybody
Yeah.
did well.
So
And
how
you're
would
just
you
like,
rate it? How would you grade your own performance? Scale of 1 to 10.
um, I, fr- I got a lot of compliments on crushed it, like crushed.
Mm-hmm.
As far as how I feel, I think audience-wise reception was very strong. A lot of like, I booked another gig after that from someone who was there. They
Awesome.
called the next day. They requested me for something.
That's a
So
good
like that was cool,
indication.
and then everybody was afterwards very complimentary. So I was like, as far as how I felt, like I know it's
Yeah.
not my tightest 10 to 15 minutes because I was playing with new ideas. I did a lot of new
Yeah.
stuff, impromptu stuff that was kind of working off of bits I had tested, which really worked well. And that was good, but because it was new, it's maybe not the final manifestation or version of that. So I was like playing around a
Nice.
bit. So there were some moments that will disappear from the act at some point.
Awesome.
But I did well. Like I felt really strong about it. Felt good about it.
All right.
Room was laughing when they a lot of laughter,
Says.
laughter when they were supposed to, a lot of clap breaks, stuff like that. Like successful set.
Awesome.
But then there's my personal experience with it. How comfortable I was, you know. We're getting there, but it was like it just also was like the practice kind of pays off because I've been just walking up to a stage, getting on a mic uncomfortably, and doing that motion and getting through a set, whether it's open micing or whatever it is, enough times that I'm like, okay, in this scenario, I can do it, and like it makes each gig a little easier because, you know, you can kind of get back to yourself a little and
Right.
like find the funny in the moment sometimes, and like have a bit that you could like work out on stage a little bit more. In a more like authentic way, where you're connecting with the crowd authentically. It's like sometimes you're doing these sets and you just blank out. You're like, did I get through everything line for line? You know. And then I did a gig the next night, so having gigs back to back, Saturday night and then Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
That was. Are you checking your phone right now? Are you checking notes?
Well, we're talking about you right now.
Do you not want to be here?
We're talking about
do you
you
not
right
want
now.
to? Do you not want to? Do you know anything about me? You're annoying. Yeah.
Did I trigger you? Did I trigger you?
It didn't trigger me. It just means that you don't know what you're doing and how to run a podcast.
Yeah. A little bit. A little bit. Yeah. A little bit.
Anyway, then I did a night 2 nights later, and I did really well there too. So like that's
Cool.
It's nice. It's really nice, and the work, having the work that leads up to it like gives validity to those efforts. You're like, okay, this is why you do that, so that when you're here, you're like, here we go, I can do this, and you know, it's fun.
Cool.
So now I'm here in Texas doing a gig tonight in a few hours.
Cool.
So I definitely have to figure out what I'm doing. And
Well,
prepare
good
for that.
luck if you hear this tomorrow on Wednesday and you can get back to Tuesday somehow. Go check Ami out.
Yeah.
No, Thursday, Wednesday, I'm all mixed up. Anyway, next week
Oh,
we're gonna talk about we got a new logo coming out.
Mm.
Like a really cool graphic
talk
designer.
about that too. Yeah,
Maybe
we've
we'll
got
talk
some-
to him or something, and
Some new artwork,
unveil
some new
that.
logo, some new
And
representation.
and I want to hear more about the nitty gritty of the stand up.
Yes, I'll tell you more about
Cool.
all those goings on there.
Alright.
I know I'm an hour behind you, so you definitely got to get moving here.
I gotta get
And-
going.
Is there anything about you, Michael,
Me?
to wrap up? I don't want to end on me.
No news,
You know,
but yeah, I have what to discuss.
You got great feedback, you said, over a weekend about the pod, which was really nice. You were saying people were showering
Oh
you with
yeah,
some
yeah,
good
yeah.
love.
People got it. It's very complimentary. Someone came up to me at the Phish show. They went, "Hey, you look like you have your own podcast." I went, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a fan. Like that's
That's cool.
Yeah, that was
Somebody
nice.
told you that you're actually the secret funny one, and I totally agree that you're the
Yeah, I hear that all
mastermind
the
behind it.
time. I hear that all the time. No, I got a lot. I went to this bachelor party
Mm-hmm.
with a bunch of guys. I'm like very close with the guy who's getting married. And I know his friends very well, but I've known them for a long time, but like I'm not like, in their thing, but I was invited to the party and I just had such a great time and I just like I got like a new like chizuk. I got like new like a lot of encouragement and like there's a lot of encouragement to sort of keep doing what I'm doing.
What do they say about me?
Which was really
I'm just
nice.
kidding. But
It was
were they
really
talking to you about
nice.
the pod when they say that? I'm just curious. Was that about the podcast or just
Yeah,
writing in just
talking
your
about
mind?
talking about the podcast, talking about like what
You.
I'm doing is slower and more methodical than what you're doing. It's harder. It's it shouldn't comparing apples and oranges. And just awesome, just like a chance to talk with like really very very funny, very very quick, sharp people. And like that's like my favorite thing. Like coming into like a group of friends and figuring out their sense of humor and like contributing to it and fitting in and like getting it and like like doing, you know what I mean? Like that's like my
Yes,
favorite thing in the world.
you're also less understood than the average folk. So it's when you're in a place where you are understood, it's
Right.
nice.
Fair enough. Yeah, right,
I see
right. The
people who
people
don't
there.
get you, and they're like, I'm like, you're missing out, man. You don't get it.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, right. Yeah, so the people there, like I like, and right, they liked me, and like it was fun. Yeah, we were just like riffing and having a great time, and just like talking, and yeah, I was like, oh yeah, like I love this, and like this is like I need to like, yeah, just like remember to
Listen,
believe in myself. It
just
was
believe
nice.
them. You need to believe them.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
believe
yeah.
me.
Which is, and it's been like I wrote, and I started collaborating more. We'll talk about that next week also. Just like being like I do best when I collaborate. So let me just do that. So I've been working with like a couple different people, and projects are moving forward and like getting closer to finishing.
I agree. I work better collaborating too.
Cool. Yeah. Next week, we'll talk about the logo. I want to talk about industry capture, something that I've been thinking a lot about, that RFK talks about, but industry capture in like the creative sense.
I want to hear
We'll
about
talk
that too.
about and talk about your gigs.
Cool.
All
And I
right.
want to hear about the collaborations too. That's
Yeah.
interesting to me.
Yeah.
All right, that is Buckle Up 60.
69. 69.
That's a good ending right there. We will leave it at that, folks.
right,
Thanks
man.
for watching. Good luck, Mike. We'll see you.
Thank you.
See you when I see you, when I'm back on the other side.
Yeah, good luck tonight.
Thank
Kill
you.
it. Crush it.
Bye.
Bye.